explained all the special units that the Rebel player has. One of the things they do at the beginning of the game is they draw a pile of these special units. Some of them are these political markers, which give them a degree of, I don't know. They're not really political, they're espionage type markers. I flipped through this section and forgot about it completely, I guess. It's hard to find anything in this game. I wanted to start playing, and then I noticed, wait, I see Guerrilla back here. Maybe that's Guerrilla special units. No. Variable forces. Okay. One of the things that's on the board is the fusion mine. And they can basically move this in. If they attack with it, it does a huge amount of damage. And it's got a strength to it. I don't remember how much, but it's fairly large. Should be on the board somewhere. I'm surprised if I have it all on its own. But if it gets attacked, it's automatically destroyed. It has a negative effect on the natives. They won't like you blowing something that big up. The guerrillas have a gun plat, and they have that in this game. They have some short-range ballistic missiles that are one-use shots. These are, jeez, I don't remember what these are. They're what's not in the game. Oh, those are the short-range ballistic missiles. So they're one-shots at 10 points each. That you can move around. They have a destroyer. Now this is going to be kind of like, I don't know if you watched my Dragon Pass game, but the Hell Beast in that charges across the board in the straight line. Well, the destroyer is going to do that, and I've set that up. You have to pre-plot what turn it's going to come in. It comes in for 2 consecutive turns and just shoots in a straight line across the map. It can be shot down by the Mikan laser batteries. Okay, and then the other is these espionage counters, and there's 3 of them. I've got 1 and 3 in play. The first one is once the PO's in play in favor of the Mikan, I can use this, and then at the beginning of each guerrilla movement phase, the Mikan have to declare if they're making a sanctuary attack, and which sanctuary they're going to attack, which makes sanctuary attacks completely useless. But each time I use this, the Mikan can roll a die, and on a 6 he eliminates that counter. The second one, which is not in this game, is going to, at least 1 PO unit must be in existence and loyal to the Mikan. The guerrilla is allowed to pass through any PO or Mikan units on the road, farm settlement, or city hexes, and may even enter enemy-controlled hexes without the need to infiltrate, or enemy-controlled cities without infiltrating. This is a power. These are all powerful. This one is probably the most powerful, being able to just slip through the enemy. Again, it can be caught on a 6. The final one is a reprogramming of the satellite system, of the location system, which every time the Mikans move, twice in a turn, I can pick a Mikan unit and displace it 1 or 2 hexes in one direction. I can't do this to things on city maps or to units that aren't moving. And the Mikan is allowed to see this counter to prove that I have it, but they're not allowed to try to destroy it. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Alright, we're about ready to start playing, and the first step is to pick chits. Now, the Mikan player does not get to pick chits at this point because the PO is not in the game yet. After reinforcements, there's a chance that the PO will be on their side. So I'm going to get to pick 4, and I think these are the actions. 1, 2. Now I'm out of power in each city. Power changes when you reach the govern level. Then you've got the government. I'm going to just put these face up well, I get to choose which cities I want to influence. So I've got to make some decisions based on this. Okay. I've got to try to figure out what the colors mean. For the two different sides for that. This, I know the red is the opposition and the black is the government, but for these, I'm not sure what they mean. So I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to see this in this mess, so I'll be back. I also want to figure out which cities I'm going to put these in. Basically, I want to put counters that help me in cities I want to hit. I want to put other counters in cities I either don't care about, but I also may want to use the opposing counters to fill spaces, to make it less likely that my useful counters will get drawn in the cities that I'm most interested in. I don't have full control over my counters. So these are the mican colored ones. And if you look, they match their color. Whereas these match my color. That didn't look like it was the case when I was seeing them from a distance. That they. So the C's on here mean these guys go in clearing, these guys go in Robachi put, and then there's going to be ones for Dinovan. So that kind of guides my decision making. I'll also look at these PO and retail. That's in clearing. I'm unfortunately on a tether and have to come over here. So health, retail's way up at the 500. That would be the first one I could place. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get to do much there. On the other hand, my abilities here, assassin, riot, and kidnap. We have to see what these do. Kidnap, I place this counter on an exposed, vulnerable, in-power power base. If not cancelled, the player removes the power base to a safe zone. And puts the action counter in the draw pile. So that would get me that counter. Assassin. During the out of player's political phase, he places the counter on any exposed vulnerable in power base. If not canceled, the power base and the action counter will go in the draw piles. And then a riot. You put this on an exposed friendly power base, and it creates a sphere of blank counters, or a circle of blank counters around it, and nothing can be done to it basically until you destroy all the rioters, which are the blank counters, and those have to be attacked. I don't know how they're dispersed. Defense strength of the enemy power base counter. No. It does not contain an enemy unit with a defense strength or an enemy power base. I think the rioters have the same strength as a power base does, which is going to be based on the population multiplier. I would have to look that up. I would think it would be here, but it's not. Not that I can see, although there's blue lines all over it, so I might not see. I'm not quite sure what I want to do. If I had a better setup in Robachi Put, I think I'd go for that. Instead, I think I'm going to throw all my stuff into clearing except this execute, which I'll put in Robachi put. And I'm going to roll dice for choosing these. Theoretically, I think neither player is supposed to even be able to see how many counters the other player has. They can all be turned upside down, but I don't know how you'd cover that with the game materials. The reason I say that is that you pick a safe zone and a number, and you get that counter. Now, when you do the counter draw. Now, if you can see how many counters the other guy has, you would never pick a number that's an empty one. And there's rules that you have to kind of push them all towards the bottom or whatever, which would create a whole different dynamic to the game. Hey, you know, the lowest numbered counters are going to be the least valuable ones, the ones I don't mind him getting, but the high valued or the high numbers, I'm going to have my more valuable stuff because he might not guess that as easily. I don't know. Anyway, I see the mechanism of handling that kind of thing solo as just about impossible, and I also don't really see it as that necessarily easy opposed either. So I'm just going to roll a die and assume they know the right number. This is essentially hidden trackable information anyway. If it was covered, you could keep a little notepad to yourself of how many counters the guy's drawn. Well, you don't know which city they're in, so no, it wouldn't be hidden trackable. Okay. After some camera screw-ups, hopefully I didn't delete anything important. I found, I'm ready to go with the reinforcement phase here. Oh shit, I still haven't set these suckers up. Crap. And I didn't set them up as I have no clue what to do with them. I've just pretty much thrown them on the board kind of into power base sections. But when those power bases are claimed, they get bumped out of them. And they can move infinitely within the city. I really don't see much point to that setup, but I had to do it. Okay, so we're on the reinforcement. Two things happen. First of all, the rules are in contradiction with the player aid. Normally, I favor the player aid, the rules in this case, but it's going to confuse the hell out of me because the rules are so bad, and the player aid, where I can use them, are going to be vital to me. So, in the rules, it says the reinforcements for the guerrillas start on turn 2 through 5. Here, they're marked out at 1 through 4, and they're also marked out that way on the turn record track. Those are going to show up inside a sanctuary or inside sanctuaries. For safety's sake, I don't necessarily want to put them together, but I think I will. I want these to be close to forces that, an area where I can hit something. So, I don't get a dummy. I'm just not sure what to do. I don't have any power at Dinavan. Looks like clearing is actually where I'm more powerful. So I'm going to put these units over there in that sanctuary. That makes them, well, anything on the board is a little bit vulnerable. But that's where they have to go. At the same time, everywhere where I have a guerrilla infantry, heavy weapons, or committee of responsibility in a forest settlement without guerrilla militia, I can place guerrilla militia there. What are guerrilla militia? Well, guerrilla militia are these crappy 0-1s, and I'm essentially going to be looking in each hex. So here's a regular unit. That is going to get a guerrilla militia, and I'll mark that by putting this in place for now. That's just to hide the information now, and that'll be flipped over very shortly. I've got to do this for a lot of units. Why do I want these crappy 0-1s? Well, remember, they do still get to move, and if they're in a sanctuary, they get to turn into regular guerrilla infantry units. I'm not sure how to distinguish between these. It seems to me like I can take these 1-3 with the higher defense factor at first. Once I start running down on them, I might consider putting some of these into play. I'm also not sure when these garrisons come in with their 1-4. I haven't been able to find any indication. Oh, those are replacements of PO garrison units, and I believe the 1-1s are replacements of PO units as well. So I think these are not going to be available to me. Only these are available to me for upgrades from militia. Anyway, I'll get placing those militia down. All right, well, all the places where there's a faced-up letter marker, and you can see there's quite a few of them, are places where I've been able to gather militia. And placing these militia really informed my setup for the most part. I kind of want it to be away from the enemy. I don't know why. They can move wherever they like, and I can pretty much move my guerrillas over most of the map without any problem. 20 hexes is generally the movement rate, although when I start getting into areas that are, actually inhabited, I don't have to pay movement at all. Mountains and the tuber plains, well, no, tuber plains can just be a problem, right? Mountains cost 2, nothing else does. So the mountains can be a slight pain in the ass for me. And the cut doesn't help you with that. You still have to traverse mountainous terrain, I guess, because the guerrillas aren't going to be using that cut. They'd get caught there. So, obviously, if I could just build up my militia all game and convert them into regulars and then start creating bigger units with these regulars, and I don't know what the conversion is. I think 3 squads make a platoon, and 3 platoons is going to make a company. I could build up this huge force that's capable of fighting effectively. The difficulty with that, of course, is, hey, I only got 12 turns. I've got to win the game in that time. So I can't just spend my entire time trying to build up force. But on the other hand, I don't think fighting is terribly valuable to me. And in fact, I think what we're going to see is that the Myken are going to be doing the majority of the fighting. Now, I'll flip all these over. This is going to be a mechanical nightmare in a sense. In the idea that I have to... I don't have my units available and visible on the board. And I always hate blind systems for this kind of situation. I'm going to be, looking up on this chart, hey, which unit goes where? And it's going to be very hard to form a cohesive strategy based on the information that I have available on the board. Whenever that information isn't just clearly visible to me, it's kind of painful. In a sense, I like, although not for solitaire, I like blind systems like Midway or Bismarck better, where I've got my own secret board and you've got your secret board, and we're both working on that if necessary. Because it's hard for me to translate the information that I know on my little special place to the overall. But this is not a double blind game, it's only single blind, so, well, that's what we have. I don't believe the Myken are able to call for reinforcements at this point. So, we're jumping down to the political phase. Now, the options that I had here affected power bases. I don't have the ability to affect power bases that aren't on the board. If my opponent isn't playing power bases, I can't damage them. And he can't play them. I can't play power bases because I don't have any political power. So something has to happen on the field. Some citizens have to get killed or something for this game to enter into that real political phase. I'm building up a secret resistance, but that's all that's happening. Now, one more thing happens during the reinforcement phase that I didn't get to, which is I do get to roll for the PO, I believe, here. If I can find the rules for that somewhere. Yeah, this is their desertion. I think I get them on a 1 through 3. There we go. Well, that's their replacement points. Their troops, when they die, they come on the map several turns later and are just reborn, except if they're killed under certain circumstances. There we go. So actually, I should have done this during the counter draw phase. I get a 4, so they're not going to be under my control. So I can't do anything like move these hover tanks, nor use their fairly limited forces for any real operation. I'm allowed to, I believe, send their militia out onto the board if I wish, or whatever you want to call that stuff. I don't know if that's... No, that's not the militia. This is the militia. What the hell is that stuff? That's a different kind of militia. This is something that I can gather. How do I get these? Oh, yeah, this game is... Okay, if I'm in a farm settlement hex without Mike and militia there, I could get militia in that hex. And I probably should have set up in such a way that I'd be generating militia. Oops. Oh well. I'm going to cheat my setup. I moved a bunch of my infantry. I didn't want to completely denude any of my cities of their defenses. However, Robachi Put has such a huge pile of stuff that no, I need to keep at least one regular infantry here. Because the infantry has a heavier defense factor than anything else. Anyway, I generated a lot of my militia this way, and I can make that a goal. I see no reason to restrict myself from producing those militia on this first turn. I really want to create the extra force, even if it's just meat that's fairly easy to kill. It at least holds some locations. So, the next thing we're up to is the political phases. Like I said, I don't have really the ability to play any of these yet. So we'll go on to the guerrilla movement phase. See the guerrilla player as being able to do a lot. He's got one huge weapon which could really make the Mycan player's day ugly if they have a big pile somewhere. But the only place where they have a big pile is here in Robachi Put, and I cannot use my big mega tonnage weapon on that. It's restricted and not allowed to be used in cities. Okay, so what am I going to do for movement? Well, basically I'm going to flip all these counters over so I can see what the hell I'm doing. And I may just end up leaving them face up, although there are problems with that. So I've got a militia. I'm going to move it its 20 movement points. I'm going to throw it into a nearby zone. Safety zone, and what we look at is forests cost us 1 movement point each. Well, I have 20 of those, so boom, I'm in here and I'm safe. I don't really want to have my units stacked particularly unless I have a unit defending another unit, and I'll just be going through and pretty much pulling my my militia out. I can't think of anything else I really want to do. Anything else that I could do is going to reveal my units, and my units aren't big enough to attack yet. Not with the stuff that the Mycan have on the board. You know, if they break down to these 2-point units, I could probably pick some of them off, or if they leave militia behind, I could probably pick some of them off, but it just ain't worth it right now. I'm still, you know, in the nascent stages of my rebellion. Forgot to mention that I have to, these are dummy units. Now, they don't look too different from the D that is present on, you know, on one of the representation counters. I gotta find some of these. I haven't found all my letter counters yet. Just gonna have to flip everything up to see. But otherwise, I've pretty much moved militia into place. I'm hoping to build up and get to a point where I have a force. I have one more decision to make. The B counter here is sitting on some heavy firepower, including a gunplat. The gunplat, remember, can fly out somewhere, attack something. My gunplat as the guerrillas is different from the Mikan ones. Like everything in the game. Everything's exceptions. It can only fire once and move twice. And that's during the combat phase. Now, whether or not I get to see where it moves, I'm not sure. My feeling is that most of the guerrilla movement should be hidden. So that allows me to make an attack with something and then jump back. Now, do I want to make that attack? Like, let's say I'm attacking this, a strength 6 thing. Well, I'm only strength 7 with the gunplat, which means I'd be attacking on 1-to-1, and it's fairly likely that I'm going to take more damage than my opponent. And X is an exchange. That'll destroy the defender, but I'll take enough casualties that I'd have to remove some of my my own units to pay for that. And on other levels, the 1-to-1 looks like it goes against me overall with the 30 to E. So I kind of want to wait and see if the mic can end up spreading out into weaker units. Either for attacks, which I think is unlikely, or to defend and generate their militia. Now, I have to be very careful, and with everything I do, I have to be paying attention to this, because this is kind of built up with events that affect, you know, that just happen in normal play. So, for example, destroying a guerrilla company counter is 50 points. Well, the company is this big thing, and you can see why that would be a big issue. But I'm looking to see, well, are other things, the Committee of Responsibility, those are important too. Are there other guerrilla units that can be destroyed that count? No. But every Mikan militia unit subtracts 5 when it's built. So theoretically, I would have made, you know, lots of negative points in all the cities, but the actuality is no, because 0 is as low as I can go. So maybe I didn't want to build these, but whatever. Otherwise, I don't see simple kills being worth anything except in the city. The city has its own special rules on a per city basis, where if I'm destroying police or something, maybe that has an effect. So I think we're set there, and yeah, I just have to find those other units. Now, there's something else I forgot to deal with here, looking back at the special units. My traders in the PO planning, at least one PO unit must be in existence and loyal for the Mikan for this to be in effect. That's not going to be there. So I'm not going to find out whether there's going to be a sanctuary raid until the PO joins the enemy side. So that was that. And now I'm up to the Mikan movement phase, and I think it's time for me to take another break. At some point or another, I'll probably end up just playing with all the rebels face up, simply because this is just too much of a pain in the butt, the way I'm handling it. But we're going to look in some detail at least a couple Mikan attacks. The first thing I start thinking about is I got these 5-point units, which I kind of built because they're a little bit more defensive. But I don't know if they're terribly valuable in an attack. Actually, well, I can't combine units, but I can create a bigger unit. What I'm looking at is, let's say I attack one of these guys in the forest, and it's what I expect, a 3-point infantry. That's what I'm kind of hoping to hit, right? Well, in either forest or mountains, the defender's doubled. So right there, it's a 6-point defense factor. Because remember, these guys have a 3 defense. So I'm going to have a tough time killing these things. I'm going to be attacking them, you know, on the 1 to 2 table, perhaps. And I certainly don't want to do that. So I've got to combine to get bigger strength. Now remember, I have unlimited movement. So I don't want to take my guys out of the city. But what I got to do is I got to find one of these with the units that'll combine with it. And this is 1A3. That's this unit. I need the 1A2 and 1A1 units. And now I have to kind of hunt them down and figure out where I've put them. There's 1A1. Here's 1A2. Okay. We'll have to remember to get some defenses there. But I'll gather these up. And where do I want to attack? You know, it kind of doesn't matter. I'm almost going to be picking at random. Because there's nothing in terrain that I'm particularly good at. So I'm going to kind of randomize here. 1, 2, 3 separate segments of the board. Now, I might send lighter units to attack one of these sanctuary spaces. I can only attack one unit in a sanctuary attack. But there's other reasons I might want to use, other things I might want to use there, like the missiles, to attack into the sanctuary, because they have a bigger multiplier. Just in case there's something big hiding in there. So I'm gonna, let's see, I was going into section 3, which is over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different places. There's 7. Let's pull out an 8-sided die. Now, obviously an actual player wouldn't be randomizing, but okay, so I get 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to attack this unit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the units here, and now I gather them together. Now maybe I could be hunting with units and sending tanks after the others. That might be more efficient. But let's see what this does. So I've got to probe this. And we go to probing. The units will be revealed. Okay. I found a dummy. If it's a dummy, it's removed from the board. The gorilla gets it back next turn. Well, that was a pretty ineffective attack. And that ends my movement. So I'm going to rotate this to note that that's ended. And there's no check for casualties. Okay. So now I got to make another decision of what I want to do. And I'm kind of unimpressed with what came of that. I could use militia to probe. That sounds exciting. Alright, let's use a militia company to probe something. I don't want to... I want to make sure that there's no restriction on them. I don't believe there is. Let me look up. I don't see anything here. So, I guess we'll start plinking at things with the militia. Let's send... Well, again, I do want to randomize because I'm really worried about... I have knowledge of where some things are here. So we'll go over to this side again. And we'll drop a probe here. We get to see it. It's another dummy. Great. All right, we'll keep probing. We'll take a peek at this one. And we found a real unit. Now, at this point, the guerrillas can attempt to hop. Given that I can probably destroy that garrison, or the militia unit, if I ambush it, I'm going to go for it. And I hop in direction 5, which means that I will stay revealed. Now that means that I'm now vulnerable to gunplats, which is really what these guys are doing. They're trying to hunt, they're trying to flush me out from the woods. And I'll continue using my militia in this fashion and maybe gather up infantry for another attack, because obviously this did not work. Okay, and we had another probe with a hop that ended up in an ambush. Now an ambush means that that unit must attack at 3 times its strength. That's going to be 3 to 2. That's going to put me on the 1-to-1 table. This is not necessarily a good thing. Who gets the ambush though? Is the question. Okay, we got a 5. There's no ambush. Continue as if the guerrilla had not attempted to hop. So I go back here and I'm still visible. Again, another item that's available for being seen. Had I attacked, it would have been kind of ugly because I'd be attacking 3 to 2. These guys doubled 1-to-1 table. If this guy had to attack, well, he'd be fighting on the 1-to-3 table. But there's not much that the Myken player loses by losing militia. They will lose all their militia if they ever have to impress the civilian population into providing transportation. Basically, if their hovercraft no longer work, in terms of generating the, being able to pull the resources from the farms into Robochiput, I may have to declare that I'm bringing the civilians into play. If I lose too many of my hovercraft, basically. I have some reserve ones, so I can lose a few. And then I will no longer ever be able to make militia. And I take some political disadvantage over on the chart. And remember, there's also a point advantage to being able to grow the militia, which I'll be foregoing. If I ever do get enough hovercraft that I feel like I can make the supplies that I need, then I'll end up getting, I'll be able to reverse that process, but I won't get the militia ever back. I'll get some of the points back, but then if I have to start impressing the civilian transportation again, I get penalized again. Anyway, on with what's going on right now. Something starts hopping, I know I've got something real. If I can't identify it, I want to keep throwing things, so I threw another militia there. It hopped again. Now I'm throwing regular troops. I did a breakdown of one of these so that I can get smaller troops and more chances of detection. And we got another hop. But you can see, as I start committing more and more resources, it's going to be hard to hop where I'm not going to be seen. And here, indeed, I am detected. Another probe, and this one's not so good. This one shows up something that can't run away. Not the heavy weapons, I believe that can, but the tank. So I'm just going to sit there. But that's a risky position to be in, and that's something that's going to be a major goal for the for the Mikan to attack. Now, I got one more little unit, so I think I'm going to do one more probe. I could break this up and make more probes, but I think this is actually kind of useful as something that can help with an attack. For example, I could send it in here along with some other forces and maybe get a decent attack on this. Or I could send one of my gun plats out there to try to destroy that. That's actually a pretty potent force here. I only have to worry about the 6, but that heavy weapon is a significant defensive power when it's doubled. So I decided to halt my probing. I moved my missiles over here. I'm going to be able to shoot into this zone. Let's do that first. I'm allowed to do a single attack that way. Alright, so I get a 10-to-1 attack on that thing. It has no terrain benefit. I can't be hurt, and I'm going to eliminate a militia. And I don't believe there's any advantage to doing that, except that I just killed off a piece that would otherwise turn into regular infantry next turn. Just trying to cut down their production. Okay, everywhere else, I'm pretty much decided on trying to use my gun plats and hover tanks to make attacks. Let's see what we can do. So, this is a hover tank. It's got a strength of 4. If I triple that, that's a 12. I can get a 2-to-1 attack if I slap one up here. This isn't the safest place in the world to be, so let's put it here instead for that 2-to-1. I'm using all 3 of its attacks at once. And I get a 20R on the enemy. Now the enemy is one of these infantry units, and I have to look up to see what kind of manpower it has. It's a guerrilla infantry squad. So it's worth 15. That means I'm going to have to lose 3 from it. If I get rid of, well, my militia don't help me, so I have to get rid of another squad to make this work out. Well, let's get rid of this one that's probably going to get hunted anyway. So this one's worth 15, I believe. So I get 15 points. And now losing 20% of that point value, I have to lose 3 points. Okay. That's used this unit up on attack. I can keep attacking at the same kind of odds. This seems like a good place to launch these attacks from. Keep the infantry on top because that's more of a non-reusable force. Oh, did I get an R? Wait, I got an R there. That means it's going to get to retreat. So, I'm going to find the effect of a retreat. Must retreat 1 hex. Alright, we'll pull back. We're not in a zone. Most of these units don't even have zones, so that's no big deal. That means I can't just send another hover tank after it, because that hover tank won't be protected by the infantry. I'm kind of hoping on, hey, I won't lose my hover tank. I probably wouldn't lose it anyway, but I'd rather have the infantry there guarding it. So now I can make another attack. Now, this is my militia. Okay. It's hard to keep track of who's what. I can make an attack here. My militia's not really capable of protecting me, but it doesn't really hurt to use militia in this way. So there's another 2-to-1 attack. And I could take losses from this, and I do. I get a 10, but I eliminate him. So this is just dead. There's nothing that can be done about that. But I take 10% of, this is one of them hover tanks. So I gotta look that up. Wow, they have more manpower than Gunplats. So I have to lose 3 manpower. And I can dismantle, I guess, an infantry squad for 15. And lose 3. And now, this squad, this is never going to build up into its platoon, but hey, that's life, you know. There's no way for me to get additional manpower with the Mycans. The only thing I can use is to remove units to do that. So that was a partially effective attack there. And let's keep looking. This is the attack I want to make. I'm going to send my Gunplat in. Now, for some reason, the Gunplats are... Well, these fuckers don't have to be in range, so I don't actually have to put myself in danger. So this guy's got a strength of 24 max. Now, if I'm facing 6-12, I get a 2-to-1. This guy's got a range equal to mine, so I might as well put him with the infantry covering him. And let's attack him at 2-to-1. That's a 4. I do a 10R to him. Now, that is a Mycan heavy, guerrilla heavy infantry, which has 30. I've got to lose 3. I luckily have lots of points, and now I retreat. That uncovers this. Now, note that I'm moving these guys and attacking with them. That's how they work. As soon as they've made their final attack, though, they can't move anymore. They do this during the combat phase. Given that that's only a 4, I can throw a 12 in there. And that gives me a 3-to-1 attack on that. You can see it's not very bloody. I take a 10% loss on my hover tank. My hovercraft is 30, so that's 3 again. I don't know why those have more men attached to them. But I don't remember. I think I rolled the 1. I'm going to be doing an E to their gun platform. That gets rid of it. He can't rebuild this thing. And E has to be an elimination, right? Yeah. So that's kind of an effective attack there. I'm going to have to look and see if I have more attacks I want to make, because I certainly have more firepower available here. I'm probably going to find something I want to do. Fortunately, I'm not allowed to attack any of these units that I haven't revealed, unless they're not in covering terrain. Non-covering terrain, I think, is these and the dunes. Not sure if this counts as covering. Somewhere it should tell me what I need to probe. No, that's not probing. Spotting might be the rules here. Oh, shit. I don't know where it's... I don't know if covering terrain is actually defined anywhere. In particular, I'm not sure. My feeling is tuber plains that are flooded probably are not covering terrain anymore. Am I allowed to walk in water? Yes. Okay. So I think I'm going to launch another attack here. Now the problem with this is this thing is kind of vulnerable, and it becomes a bit of a target. Because it won't be doubled in defense from the terrain. But I like that 2-to-1 attack, I guess. If I roll a 6, that means the attacker takes 10% in a retreat. Now that's a gunplat. 10% is going to be 2 hits. And I get to retreat, which is kind of a bonus, because now I can take the advantage of the defense, even if I didn't win that fight. I got another one of these. I'll throw it over there. Oh, this is not going well for me. I would kind of like to destroy this unit, but that's not likely. The exchange would be the only thing that would cause that. Okay, I got one more little attack. This guy's only at most a 12. I'm going to risk him too. We'll make 12 to... We'll put it here. Better defensive if I retreat. 12 to 3. 12 to 6 is 2 to 1. And we get another shitty result of 10%, which is 3 more of our manpower. And another retreat into here. So that didn't go well at all. And we used, you know, I mean, those things used as much firepower as they can at once. Now let's make sure we didn't have anything happen that we needed to worry about here. I don't think we did. We didn't cause any civilian casualties. Civilian casualties happen when we fight in the cities too. So that's going to put us to where in the sequence of play? That's going to be the end of the turn. And we move this forward as we would in any other game. And we start the cycle over again. I'm going to load this one up. I think it shows a little bit of detail on the starting part of the game. Flip a couple of these rebels over. You can see it's pretty tough to hit the rebels actually, and at least in the terrain. And they're going to have a chance to build up. So that's kind of painful. All right, let's send this up.